There's a girl standing chest-deep in a murky Alabama river in the middle of summer. No rod, no reel, no net. She takes a breath, goes underwater, and shoves her arm into a dark hole in the mud. Something enormous bites down. She doesn't flinch. She grabs harder. When she surfaces a few seconds later, she's hauling a thrashing 30-pound catfish into the air with her bare hands, laughing the whole time. She was 15 the first time she did that, and that single yes, said to a neighbor who knocked on the door one afternoon, sent her life in a direction nobody could have predicted. This is the story of how Hannah Barron went from a girl in the Alabama backwoods to one of the most recognized names in the entire outdoor space. Hannah was born on July 3, 1996, in Crenshaw County, Alabama. If you've never been to that part of the state, picture it as about as rural gets. Flat land, pine trees, unpaved roads, and a community where hunting season genuinely feels like a public holiday. Her parents, Jeff and Lisa, split up when she was around 8 years old, but her dad never went anywhere. Jeff Barron was, and still is, one of the most influential figures in Hannah's life. From before she could walk on her own, Hannah was out in the woods with Jeff. There are photographs of him holding a freshly killed deer in one arm and a baby Hannah in the other, pacifier in her mouth. By the time she was 8, she had already taken her first deer, a 7-point buck. Her dad made her wait while smaller deer passed by. And she did. That patience and that shot taught her something she's carried with her ever since. If you hold out for the right moment, you'll get something worth remembering. By 10, she was cleaning deer herself. While other kids her age were playing sports or joining clubs, Hannah was running trot lines for catfish and spending every free hour outside. School happened, life happened, but the woods were where she actually felt at home. Then, when Hannah was around 15, something changed. It started with a neighbor. A county game warden named Brad Gavins had moved in down the road, and when you live a mile off an unpaved road in rural Alabama, down the road means a few miles away. Jeff Barron ran a sawmill on the property, and Brad came over asking if Jeff could cut some logs for him. Jeff did. As a gesture of appreciation, Brad made an offer that neither of them had heard before. Did they want to go noodling? Hannah said, "Heck yeah." That's how she tells it. Noodling, also called hand fishing or grabbling depending on who you ask, is exactly what it sounds like. You go into a river or lake during summer, find a hole in the mud or a submerged box where catfish are bedding, reach in and wait for the fish to bite your arm. Then you hang on. A big flathead catfish can weigh 50, 60, even 70 pounds. It will thrash, twist, and try to drag you down. Your job is to get a grip around its jaw and get it to the surface before it takes you with it. Most people, hearing that description, would walk in the other direction. Hannah Barron walked straight toward it. That first trip out with Brad and her dad was the moment everything crystallized. Hannah has described that first big bite as an adrenaline rush, unlike anything she had ever felt. Bigger than any hunt, bigger than any catch on a rod. The fish took off and started pulling her. Her dad reached over, grabbed her and the catfish at the same time, and hauled them both into the boat. She was soaked, scratched up, probably laughing. She was hooked. From that summer onwards, noodling became the center of the year for the Barron household. Deer hunting owned the winters. Noodling owned the summers. Every June and July, Hannah and Jeff were out on the water, going hole to hole, pulling up flatheads and blue cats that weighed more than most people would ever want to wrestle with. She kept a fist balled up going in, because if you go in open-handed, a big catfish can break your fingers clean. She learned that the hard way. She's got scars she wears proudly. The heaviest fish she ever noodled came in at 67 pounds. She was barely 5 feet tall. For several years, it stayed exactly that. A passion, a summer ritual, a thing she and her dad did that nobody outside their circle knew much about. There wasn't much noodling content online at the time. The sport barely had a following. Hannah wasn't thinking about cameras or platforms or audiences. She was just living the life she had always lived. Then, in 2016, she bought a cheap camera just to test it out. She took it noodling. Her cousin Ryan was there, filming and talking in the background. Hannah pulled a 30-pound flathead out of a hole, soaking wet, grinning. She posted the video to Instagram. Nothing happened at first. Then someone reposted it to a Facebook page. Then someone else shared it from there. Fox Sports picked it up and ran it on their buzzer page. Inside a week, that one clip had racked up over 15 million views across multiple platforms. Some tallies put the final number closer to 20 million. Hannah Barron woke up famous. She was 19 years old. Not everyone welcomed her with open arms. That's the part of the story that tends to get glossed over, but it's worth understanding because of what it says about her. Comments flooded in, and not all of them were congratulatory. A loud segment of the internet had opinions about a young woman in a swimsuit catching catfish with her hands. Some questioned whether it was real. Others mocked her accent. A section of the outdoor community itself pushed back, suggesting she was only getting attention because of how she looked, not what she was doing. The phrase "too pretty for this" got thrown around a lot, as if it were an insult. Hannah addressed it directly and without apology. She made clear that she wasn't in a swimsuit to attract viewers. She was in a swimsuit because that's what you wear when you're going underwater in summer. She had been doing this since she was 15, long before a single person on the internet knew her name. Her lifestyle had not changed. The audience had just arrived. The messages that actually got to her, she said, were not the criticism. They were the ones from fathers of young daughters and from teenage girls who had been told the outdoors wasn't for them. Those were the messages that made it worth it. The viral moment turned into a career, and Hannah built it methodically. She launched her YouTube channel in May 2017, and by 2018, she had graduated from Troy University's College of Communication and Fine Arts with a Bachelor of Science degree. She was uploading hunts, fishing trips, noodling sessions, and everyday life from Crenshaw County. The channel grew steadily. The Instagram following went into the millions. She started selling merchandise through her Barron Outdoors brand. Sponsorship deals came in from outdoor and hunting companies. By the mid-2020s, she was sitting on an estimated net worth of around $5 million, built entirely from content she would have been creating whether a camera was running or not. Her dad, Jeff, wasn't just watching from the sidelines either. He eventually started his own YouTube channel, and Hannah took on the job of editing his videos too, the same way she had always been the one next to him in the woods. Then, in January 2024, something happened that stopped everything cold. Jeff Barron climbed up into a friend's lock-on tree stand to inspect it. When he stepped onto the platform, the top strap gave way. He fell 18 to 20 feet straight down and hit the ground. He was knocked out cold. When he came to, he was alone, with no phone on him. So Jeff Barron, a man who had just broken vertebrae in both his neck and lower back and bruised a kidney, got up, walked 400 yards through the woods, climbed a fence, got into his truck, and drove himself home. Hannah found out and got him to the hospital immediately. She sat beside his bed and filmed an update for her audience, trying to keep it together while explaining that her dad was lucky to be alive and lucky not to be paralyzed. The community rallied around them in a way that surprised even Hannah. The recovery was long, the road was difficult, but Jeff pulled through. The whole episode became a stark public reminder of how quickly things can go wrong in the field. And within Hannah's audience, it sparked serious conversations about tree stand safety and harness use that continued for months afterwards. Hannah Barron is, as of 2026, still in Crenshaw County, still hunting, still noodling every summer, still pulling 50-pound flatheads out of dark holes in the river and laughing while she does it. Her audience has grown to nearly 2 million on Instagram and just under 1 million subscribers on YouTube. She is, by any measure, one of the most authentic figures the outdoor internet has ever produced. Someone whose content exists, not because she crafted a persona for a platform, but because a platform caught up to a life she was already living. It all traces back to a summer afternoon when she was 15 years old. A game warden knocked on the door, and she said yes to something most people would never try once. That one yes changed everything.